Let's begin a demo for Zoho RPA. What is RPA? RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. They're nothing but software bots that can interact with any application or system like we normally do. Say for example, you could make a click on an application and a bot can do that for you. So bots can automate high volume, repetitive, mundane tasks that you do every day so that you could focus on things that matter the most to you. So let's look at why businesses need RPA. So we'll take a business case example to understand the current challenges of manual processes that businesses face today and why you need RPA. Imagine an e-commerce retailer. So with increased popularity and growing demand, they would receive thousands of orders every day. All these orders need to be processed manually. So processing these orders manually can be labor-intensive, error-prone, time-consuming, and also costly. Managing the inventory can also be very difficult. Fluctuations in demand and seasonal trends and even supply chain disruptions make it challenging to maintain the right stock levels. Often goods can be overstocked in some locations while running out in the others. Also, the customer service team will be overwhelmed with repetitive queries like order status checks and even return requests. So how can RPA help? Automated order processing. So the RPA bots can automatically process the incoming orders. They can extract the order details from web forms or emails and automatically enter them into your order management systems. This would speed up the order process, thus reducing manual errors and also enhance the customer service experience. Real-time inventory management. Bots can monitor the stock levels in warehouses. They can add new stock when the new stock arrives and also automatically place reorder requests when the products in the inventory reach a particular threshold, so that products are always available and to prevent stockouts. Enhance customer service experience. Companies can automate routine queries like order status checks and return requests so that agents can focus on complex issues, thus improving the overall customer service quality. So far we've seen the manual processes and how RPA can help. So now let's take a look at an overview of the Zoho RPA platform. The Zoho RPA platform is designed for seamless automation development right from your web browser. You can create automations by building RPA flows and configuring actions on them. In order to run the automations that you just built on your desktop machine, you would need something called an RPA agent. The RPA agent acts as a bridge between your desktop machine and the web browser. They help in configuring the actions and also executing your RPA flows. They ensure seamless communication between your desktop machine and your web browser. So now let's delve deeper into the Zoho RPA platform. We'll look at its core components and explore how to build and automate your RPA flows. Flows are an essential part of the platform. So flows are nothing but processes or workflows that you create to automate your tasks. A flow consists of a trigger and one or more actions. So let's create our first RPA flow. Log into your Zoho RPA account, navigate to your My Flows section, click on the Create button and then click on Create Flow. Give your flow a name, a description, and then pick the required RPA agent. I've already installed the RPA agent on this machine. I'll go ahead and click on Create. So we'll get navigated to the Builder screen. So this is where you would build your RPA flow. Triggers are nothing but events that would kickstart your workflow. We have schedule, desktop event, and webhook. With schedule triggers, you'd be able to automate your workflows to run at particular dates or time intervals. You'd be able to choose the frequency of the schedule and when it needs to start. And you also have an option to schedule this particular workflow to run on multiple agent machines. Just select the required machines and then click on Done. Next, we support desktop event triggers. With this trigger, you'd be able to kickstart the workflow to run at events based on your desktop machine. We have three different options. We have hotkey, Windows process, or file or folder event. Hotkey uses nothing but a shortcut key that would initiate the workflow. Windows process, you'd be able to trigger the workflow based on if a Windows process is started or stopped. So you'd be able to give in your process name, for example, excel.exe here, which would trigger the workflow whenever the Excel application or instance is open and running. The next option is file or folder event. You'd be able to trigger the workflow to run based on file or folder events, like when a new file is created or a particular folder is modified. You can choose from the event types that are available here. You also need to configure the folder path that the bot needs to monitor. You can also have the workflow triggered only when a specific file type is added or a specific file name followed with dynamic values is added or modified to a particular folder. So the next trigger type is webhook. So every workflow would have a unique URL that's generated. So whenever you call this URL from your third-party service or another application, you'd be able to have this workflow triggered. So we'll go ahead and use this as a trigger for the demo. Now let's look into the supported actions for RPA. So we have the supported actions listed on the left pane under the RPA section. First, we look into Microsoft Excel automation. With Zoho RPA, you can automate Microsoft Excel on your Windows machine. You'd be able to open up Excel files, read from Excel files, write to an Excel file, copy data from one Excel file to another, or you can format data in an Excel file. You can filter out data, look for specific data. You can do a bunch of many other things, like you can even run macros. We support many actions that you can see here. All you have to do is just drag and drop the required action onto the workflow pane and then go ahead with the configuration. The first step we need to do is to open the Excel application. We have an option to run the Excel instance either in the background or if you want it to run in the foreground, it's alright. We can open up an existing file or in case if you want a new one. So I'm going to open up an existing Excel file. So in case if your file is password protected, you can key in the password here. So we can go ahead and read from the Excel file that we just configured in the previous task. So for Excel, we support a task recorder. So this makes your configuration easier. So with the task recorder, you'd be able to automatically select the data range that you want to read from the Excel file without having to specify the data range or the sheet, the header, all of it in this screen here. So we'll go ahead and launch the task recorder. You can see that it's opened up the Excel file and this is the task recorder. Just go ahead and indicate the header row. Whenever I select the row here, you can see that the header row number automatically populates here. So just click on the tick mark here when we are done. Now we need to select the data range that we want to read from the Excel file. Click on indicate and then click on the required data range. You can notice that if I click on a cell, it changes to a cell and the cell number populates. In case if I click on a particular column, it would change to a column. In case if I select a particular range, it would change to a range. I'm just going to read this particular row from the Excel file. Just click on the tick mark here and then click on confirm. You can see that it's automatically populated the information that we configured using the task recorder. So in case if you want to make changes, you can go ahead and make the changes here, or you can go ahead and launch the task recorder again. So we have an interesting option here. So sometimes you might just want to have the automation within your desktop environment. You might have a Windows application that you want to extract data from and then use that data on an Excel sheet and then push that data to an Excel sheet or vice versa. You don't really have to, take that data to the RPA server unless you want to push that data over to a cloud app using the cloud app integration tasks. So by default, we do not push the data to the RPA server. So in case if you want to use it in the cloud app action, you can go ahead and choose yes. So we also have other configurations like only read from visible cells, or if you want to include the hidden cells or include the data format as well. So click on done. So like this, we have a bunch of other tasks. You can go ahead and explore them. So next we look into file and folder tasks. So the file and folder tasks will let you organize your data better. You'll be able to create new folders, zip a file, unzip a file, or see the contents of a particular folder, see what files are present there in the folder, or copy or move files from one folder to another, and things like that. We'll do a simple set of tasks under file and folder automation. So I'm going to be creating a new folder for client invoices on the desktop. So before we create the folder for the client invoices, we're going to check if the particular folder already exists on the desktop. If it already exists, we'll proceed with just saving the invoices to that particular folder that's already there. Else we'll go ahead and create a new folder. So just drag and drop to check if file or folder exists task, and then choose the folder path. So you're going to be looking for the client name, invoices. So this is going to be the folder that we need to create. So we're just checking if it already exists. And we'll use the decision box to check or validate this condition. So in case if the value is false, in case if there is no folder, we can go ahead and create a new folder. So we're going to give it as the client name, invoices. You can just hit done here. Next, we look into Windows app automation. So Windows app automation is nothing but you'll be able to automate your Windows applications. You'll be able to open up a Windows application, type in text into the application, or extract data from the application, or select options, perform a bunch of tasks that you would normally do on a Windows application. So similar to the other tasks, all you have to do is just drag and drop the task onto the workflow pane and go ahead with the configuration. But wait, there's more. To make things easier, we have a Windows app recorder. The Windows app recorder would capture the steps that you would perform on the Windows app manually and convert them to actions in your workflows. So we'll go ahead and launch the Windows app recorder. You can see that the Windows app recorder appears on the top right corner of my screen. So we can go ahead and hit start. Whenever I hover my mouse over every element on the screen, it would get highlighted in orange. When I make a click, it would indicate the particular action is being recorded. I'm going to open an invoice generator application, create an invoice for the client, and then download the invoice to the folder that we just created. So I'll go ahead and capture the fields that we need to type the data into. And then we need to download the invoice. You can capture this window, then hit stop. You can see that all of the steps that we performed manually on the application lists out as actions. So in case if we've made a mistake, we can go ahead and hit delete, and then we can re-record. So this looks good. We'll go ahead and click confirm. So you can see that we have a preview option here to see the UI element that this action will be performed on. So this would be available for Windows applications as well as for web, because it's based on UI elements. So we'll quickly go ahead and configure all of these actions. So we'll use the data that we read from the Excel sheet. So we do support a delay option. So as we know, sometimes it might take a few seconds for the menu item to load or a particular field to appear. So we'll be able to configure the delay for every action here. So hit done. So we'll go ahead and fill in the other actions as well. You can also change the name of each action here so that you can understand what each of these steps would perform at a quick glance. So here we're going to use the folder path that we want to save the invoices to. So in our previous steps, we have created a new folder in case if this particular folder did not exist. The file name can be the client's name. And then hit done. Next, we look into web automation. So similar to Windows applications, you'll be able to automate your web browsers. You'll be able to navigate to URLs, fill in forms, extract data from a URL, and things like that. You can just drag and drop the required task onto the workflow pane and go ahead with the configuration. So we also have a recorder supported for the web browser, so you don't really have to drag and drop the task. You can go ahead and use the recorder and capture all of the steps that you would perform on the browser and automatically convert them to actions on your workflow. So in order to use the web browser recorder, you would need to install the Zoho RPA extension available on the Chrome store. I've already installed the Chrome extension, so I can go ahead and launch the web browser recorder. Just navigate to the URL that you want to go to, and then you can see that a small little recorder appears on the bottom right. So similar to Windows, whenever you hover your mouse over every element on the screen, it would get highlighted in orange. So in case if I make a click on it, it would get selected. So sometimes you might just want to perform another action. You can go ahead and click on this gear icon and change the action that you want to perform. So here I'm just going to go ahead and set text. Here the same as well. Here we can go ahead and capture the other steps. Hit the click button. You also have an option to pause the recording and then resume as well. So we're good. We can go ahead and hit stop. You can see that all of the steps that we performed lists out as actions here. We hit confirm. So we'll go ahead and configure the inputs for the web actions as well. You can use the order ID from the Excel sheet, the client's phone number from the Excel sheet. So we're done building our RPA flow. So let's take a look at the compatibility matrix for the different RPA features that I just showcased in the demo. For Windows App Automation, we support Windows applications that are built in these frameworks: WinForms, WPF, Win32, and UWP. For web automation, we support web browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Ular. And for Microsoft Excel, we support these Excel versions: Excel 2013, 2016, and 2019. So we have a test and debug option to ensure that your workflow works as expected before you turn them on for production. So we'll go ahead and use the test and debug option. So since we've configured a webhook, we just need to make a call to the particular URL. So in case if you want to push some data over to the workflow, you can go ahead and you can send in the payload data as well. Go ahead and hit test. You can see that it's opening up the Excel file, and then it's opening up the invoice generated application and filling out the invoice. It's downloading the invoice. It's trying to open up Chrome. It's quickly filling out the form, and that's it. You can go ahead and you can see that across each of these actions, you'll be able to see the input and output data. So in case if there were any errors, this would appear as an error, which would indicate what actually fails, what caused the failure, and you'll be able to debug from there. So this is it. We have built a first RPA flow. So apart from this, we have the apps section, which is powered by Zoho Flow. Zoho Flow supports 900 plus applications that you can integrate with. So you'll be able to create these connections in your Zoho Flow account and use all of these tasks in your RPA workflows. However, these would require a Zoho Flow subscription. So apart from the cloud app integration, we also have a logic section where you'd be able to create new variables or branch out your workflows based on certain set of decisions, or even send out email notifications to your users in any step or any stage of the workflow. And you also have a custom function option, which would allow you to build in your own custom logic and bring them to your workflow using Deluge. So this is an example of a custom function. You can bring in your own custom logic with Deluge. So once we have done building our workflow, we can go ahead and turn it on. Once you've turned on your RPA flow for production, we need to monitor to ensure that the bot is executing all of these functions as expected. So we have a dashboard page for every flow that you've built. We have charts to see how the bot has been performing. You'll be able to see the recent executions and also if there were any failures. You also have a detailed history page where you'll be able to see all of the executions that this RPA flow has completed. So for each of the executions, you'll be able to see what were the inputs and outputs across each of these steps. In case if there were any errors, you would be able to point out what caused the failure. So you'll need to debug and fix the particular error and then turn on the workflow again. So we also have an overall dashboard page that will give you an overview of all the workflows that you've built in your Zoho RPA account. You'll be able to tell how many workflows you have in total, how many has been turned on for production, how many has been turned off temporarily or paused, and how many are being built right now. So you'll be able to see the executions for the entire organization here. You'll be able to monitor if there were any failures and all of it here. So next we look into the settings option. The first section is the organization profile. You'll be able to give your organization details, following which we have the execution history for the entire organization. You'll be able to filter out data accordingly, and then you can use the export option to export the execution history for your references. This app connections page refers to the cloud app connections that you can use in your RPA workflows. This again is powered by Zoho Flow. So you'd need a Zoho Flow subscription in order to use the connections in your RPA flows. So next is the RPA agents page where you can manage and create new RPA agents. So you'll be able to see the list of all the RPA agents across your entire organization. You can create a new RPA agent by clicking on this create button, and then download the installable for your system's architecture, and then go ahead with the installation, and then paste this installation key, and once you're done installing it, you'd be able to find your RPA agent listed here. You can also see the status of the agent in this particular column in case you'd be able to ping and check if it is active. You can also check the other details like if the auto update is turned on, the host name for the agent and who created this agent and when it was created. So going to the next section, you'll be able to invite users to your organization using the members page. Next, we look into the notification section. Here you'll be able to configure when you want to receive notifications. So right now we just have one notification setting that you can configure. You can configure to receive notifications when manual updates are available for agents. So you can turn on or turn off the toggle. So in case if there's a new update available, under this bell icon, you will receive the notification. And it'll be notified only to the person who created the agent. Next is the audit trail section. So here you'll be able to look at the changes that your users have been doing. You'll be able to export the audit trail logs. Lastly, you have the custom functions, the list of all the custom functions that you've built for your organization listed here. So let's take a business case example and see the bot in action. Okay, so I'm taking an employee onboarding business case where the process flow would be like this. I would have a list of employees on an Excel sheet. Then the bot would read the employees from the Excel sheet and write to Microsoft Active Directory and then also raise an asset request for this particular user in Manage Engine Service Desk Plus. So let's see the bot in action. So I already have this workflow built. So I'm going to the workflow and I'll go ahead and demo it for you. So you can see that I have a bunch of steps like it opens the Excel file, reads from it and opens up the Active Directory and then so on. So we'll go ahead and execute the workflow. You can see that the bot's opening up the Excel file. It's opening up Active Directory. It's adding a new user. It's actually trying to open up Chrome. It's logging into the portal and it's going to be adding a user to SDP first. So it's adding the new user here. It's going to be creating an asset request for this particular user. You can now see that it's added the request for the user. Thank you. Our demo ends here. For any queries, you can write to us at support@zohorpa.com.